about before I get into why it took me so long and to make a video, why this and that. I told y'all going into this game that the Fever was going to win. I was one of the people that did not expect them to lose this one. Go back and look. I told y'all they was going to win. I didn't think they was going to be down by 20 and come back and win. Kelsey Mitchell immediately erupted. But guys, it took me a while to make this video because I'm trying to get my thoughts together and gather my emotions because my second favorite player on the team is done, and that is Sophie Cunningham.
It was supposed to be a moment of triumph, a hard-fought comeback win that showed the grit of a team refusing to surrender. But instead, the lasting image was one of tears. Not tears of joy, but of complete and utter exhaustion.
Oh my goodness! It took a Hercules-like effort from Kelsey Mitchell in the second half of the game to bail out Stephanie White. My God, it took overtime for the Indiana Fever to beat the worst team in the league, they're now 6-27. We're whipping the Indiana Fever's asses for 3 quarters.
Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White sat before the press, her voice cracking, the raw emotion of a season from hell finally spilling over. Her team had been battered, bruised, and broken, and this victory had come at a devastating cost. This wasn't just about one game, it was about a moment that ripped the mask off the WNBA, exposing a crisis that had been simmering just beneath the surface.
Dirty, dirty Bria, of course, it had to be ya. Dirty, dirty Bria, I would really hate to see ya in a dark alley. Dirty Bria Hartley back at it again with her shenanigans, and this time around, she had her eyes set on one Sophie, the trophy Cunningham. Sophie, get well soon. Hopefully the MRI later today shows nothing too serious. Would love to see you back on the court.
The catastrophe unfolded in the second quarter. It was a fast-moving, chaotic sequence that would be replayed endlessly for all the wrong reasons. Connecticut Sun guard Bria Hartley drove hard into the lane, a blur of motion surrounded by defenders. As she dished the ball off, her momentum carried her forward. But what happened next defied the physics of a normal basketball play. Instead of stumbling forward or sideways, she twisted in midair, her body careening directly into the planted right leg of an unsuspecting Sophie Cunningham. The impact was sickening. Cunningham's knee buckled unnaturally, and she collapsed to the hardwood, her face a mask of pure agony as she clutched her leg. It was the kind of injury that makes an entire arena fall silent, a brutal reminder of the fragility of an athletic career.
And I want to talk about what Coach Stephanie White had to say after the game. During an interview, she said these players have something inside of them that you just can't teach. They bring it out in each other, and it allows us to get through these incredibly tough times. It gives us a chance. I'm so incredibly proud of them for continuing to believe. And that is something where I feel like the media or other players have said that the Fever have locker room issues, and we even heard that last season. It seems like this core group, since DeWanna Bonner has departed and she is no longer with the team, it seems like this group really has come together, and whether they are winning or losing, they do have a sense of togetherness.
On the court, the immediate aftermath was a scene of controlled panic. Teammates rushed to Cunningham's side, their faces etched with concern, forming a protective circle around their fallen star. The medical staff was waved onto the floor, and for several long minutes, the game simply ceased to exist. It was replaced by the quiet, tense drama of a serious injury. But as the shock began to fade, it was replaced by a simmering anger.
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price. Bri Hartley, let me just start there because we've got Sophie Cunningham's sister and mother weighing in on the league, and Bria Hartley right here. This is Hartley right here coming in.
She tries to slide over right there. And Hartley just kind of falls
and
and
she
crushes
in on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down hard.
And that was it.
That's like she tried
Sophie
to slide
was
over
upset,
right there, and Hartley just kind of falls and
and
collision
right
with
there
that lower
once
leg.
again into the knee. They had to pull out towels to sort of cover the situation up. Bria Hartley getting absolutely destroyed by everybody.
The referees had made no call on the play. To them, it was just an accident, a player losing her balance. But to many watching, it looked like something far more sinister. And as Cunningham was eventually helped off the court, unable to put any weight on her leg, a question began to hang heavy in the air. How could something so violent be considered part of the game? That question exploded into a full-blown accusation, with the emergence of a single, damning photograph.
Indiana Fever with a hell of a comeback versus the Connecticut Sun. We're going to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the ugly. Prayers up for Sophie Cunningham. One half of the Blonde Bombers. Sophie, the trophy, is done for the season with a horrific lower leg injury. I don't know if it's her knee. I don't know if it's an Achilles. It looked bad. She's going to be done for the year. I don't know how much longer the Indiana Fever can continue to survive with these injuries. I just have to be honest. I got to be real. We lost Sydney Colston to a torn ACL. Ari McDonald broken bone in her foot. Caitlyn Clark has played like 12 games all year or something like that. Dewana Bonner scammed us. I mean, it's been a complete shit show, to say the least. It's been a shit show.
In the chaotic moments after the collision, a camera caught Bria Hartley in the background. And on her face, unmistakable to thousands who saw the image shared online, was a smile, a smirk. While Sophie Cunningham was writhing in pain, her season potentially over, Hartley appeared completely unfazed, almost amused. The image went viral, becoming the central piece of evidence in the court of public opinion. Any benefit of the doubt was erased.
Where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlyn has been out. She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who has really held this team together, and seeing her go down in the first half, like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down.
For legions of fans, this was no longer a tragic accident. It was a malicious act, and the smile was proof of intent. It transformed Hartley from a clumsy player into a calculated villain.
Save this team today. And I told y'all, go back to the video I posted last night. I told y'all Bria Hartley is a dirty player. She's no different than Dejanay Carrington. It just doesn't get as much publicity because the Connecticut Sun stink. Point blank, period. She's reckless. She injured Sophie Cunningham, and it is a travesty. Stephanie White, you better go and you need to be buying Kelsey Mitchell food all week. You need to send her a personal masseuse because she saved your job tonight. Yeah.
If the public was angry, Sophie Cunningham's family was furious. They refused to let the narrative be controlled by league statements or journalistic objectivity. They went to war. Her mother, Paula, took to social media with a blistering attack, calling Hartley a disgruntled player having trouble everywhere she goes and accusing her of being plain mean and playing out of control. It was a mother's protective rage, raw and unfiltered. Sophie's sister, Lindsay, aimed her fire directly at the league's headquarters. Maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes, she wrote in a post that became a rallying cry. Pathetic.
Is driving in. Sophie Cunningham, or Kelsey Mitchell comes down. Sophie Cunningham overhelps, and Bria Hartley just kind of plows through her leg by the looks of things. So I need to see where she plows through. She kind of plows through the knee, and Sophie's holding like her patella. She's holding her patella. It does look like it's a patella. It's a patella injury. Normally, people will hold higher in their knee if it's a knee ligament injury.
In the absence of a strong league response, the Cunningham family became the de facto prosecutors, demanding justice for what they saw as a blatant assault. This wasn't the first time Bria Hartley's name had been associated with controversy. Her on-court reputation was that of a tough, physical player, but many felt she frequently crossed the line. Just days before the incident with Cunningham, Hartley had been involved in an on-court shoving match that resulted in technical fouls. Digging deeper, a pattern of overly aggressive plays seemed to emerge, moments where her physicality bordered on reckless. The incident with Cunningham wasn't an outlier. It was the culmination of a playstyle that many fans and even other players had quietly criticized. The dirty player label, once whispered, was now being shouted from the rooftops. She was put on trial by social media, with every past transgression dredged up as evidence of a career defined by pushing the limits of sportsmanship.
So we were talking about a couple things when it came to Stephanie White, right? And one of the things were, does she really care about winning? Now, she looks very effusive, right, on the sideline, giving a lot of energy, looking like she cares, getting pissed off. It was times where Caitlyn Clark even had to hold her back from yelling at the refs, right? So I would think she wants to win. I don't think she's trying to throw anything. Now, I can admit, when it comes to the end of the game, her rotations, her deciding who to play and who not to play, it does make her look a little bit enigmatic.
This entire saga, however, points to a much larger, more systemic failure within the WNBA, a full-blown officiating crisis. For years, players have complained about the inconsistency of the refereeing, where one night a slight touch is a foul, and the next, a flagrant tackle is a no-call. Sophie Cunningham herself has been one of the most vocal critics, and her wallet has paid the price. She has been fined multiple times by the league for speaking out about the poor quality of the officiating. Her sister's accusation wasn't just an emotional outburst, it was a reflection of a deeply held belief among players that the referees are failing to protect them. When the officials lose control of a game, players often take matters into their own hands, and physicality escalates. In this context, Cunningham's injury wasn't just the result of one player's recklessness, it was the inevitable consequence of a league that allows its games to be governed by chaos instead of rules.
Stephanie White's best friend, Caitlyn Peck, been? And where has the Indiana Fever are a more dangerous team without Caitlyn Clark conversation gone? How come once the Indiana Fever suddenly stop that 5-game win streak, lose 3 of their last 4, how come Caitlyn Peck has suddenly stopped showing up on TV? How come that narrative of the Indiana Fever are more dangerous without Caitlyn Clark? Why has that suddenly stopped?
All of this brings us back to Stephanie White and her tears. Her emotional press conference was about more than just one injury. It was the breaking point of a coach who had watched her team get torn apart all season. Before Cunningham went down, the Fever were already reeling from the loss of key players, including their superstar rookie, Caitlyn Clark, who had missed time with her own injury. White's breakdown was a moment of raw human vulnerability. It was the look of a leader who felt powerless to protect her players from the sheer brutality of the game. Her tearful plea for her team's resilience to be recognized was also an unspoken indictment of a league that had put them in such a desperate position. Her pain represented the immense human toll of a sport that seemed to be losing its way.
To see her go down, to see, like, it's just emotional, guys. Just, I'm hella mad. Hartley need to be suspended on a major level completely. Probably she's, at this point, she's more dirtier than Dejanay Carrington. Just the countless of dirty plays she has been doing over the last couple weeks has just been remarkable, and it's shocking that she's not suspended. Sophie Cunningham was getting attacked from the opening part of this game. Let me pull up something here real quick, guys, but I am hella mad, bro. Sophie did not deserve any of that happened to her today, and it is very, very unfortunate, man.
The crisis has been amplified 1,000 times over by what is now known as the Caitlyn Clark effect. The arrival of the college superstar brought an unprecedented wave of new fans, media coverage, and money into the WNBA. But these new eyes are also seeing the league's ugly side for the first time. They've watched Clark get hip-checked, shoved to the floor, and targeted with a level of physicality that has sparked national debate. The rough treatment of its biggest star has placed the league's officiating and player conduct under a microscope. Now every hard foul, every controversial play, including the one that injured Cunningham, is no longer an internal basketball issue. It's a national headline, fueling a narrative that the league is more like a gladiator arena than a professional sports organization. What often gets lost in the debates about fouls and fines is the stark reality of what an injury like this means for a WNBA player. This isn't the NBA, where max contracts guarantee generational wealth. The average WNBA salary is a fraction of that, and roster spots are fiercely contested. For a player like Sophie Cunningham, a serious knee injury isn't just a painful recovery, it's a direct threat to her livelihood. Months of rehabilitation, potential long-term effects on her athleticism, and the risk of being replaced by a younger, healthier player are all terrifyingly real possibilities. This adds a layer of consequence to every reckless play. It's not just a game, it's a career, a mortgage, a future that can be shattered in a single careless moment.
What she's doing. I've been saying it for the past couple games where I'm like, man, I'm just not understanding why you're not playing this player, that player. What's up with the rotation? I find myself doing this a whole lot. So at some point, I have to say, yeah, she just has to get out of her own way when it comes to rotations, who you're playing, who we're getting the ball to, when the hot hands are going. These things are kind of confusing. Now, my biggest example will be Chloe Bibby. Now, I've been talking about Chloe Bibby for a good amount of games now, and the thing is, the Dallas game, yes, they lost, but she shot 100% from the three.
In the face of this multifaceted crisis, an injured star, a furious family, a viral controversy, and an emotional coach, the WNBA's response was, to many, a masterclass in failure. There was no immediate suspension for Bria Hartley. The official league statement was seen as weak, a boilerplate response that did little to address the outrage. They eventually upgraded the foul after the fact, but the lack of a swift, decisive punishment sent a chilling message throughout the league. Player safety is secondary. By failing to come down hard on a play that so clearly crossed the line, the WNBA created the perception that this kind of behavior was, if not acceptable, then at least tolerable. It was a monumental failure of leadership at the exact moment when strong leadership was needed most. Ultimately, the fall of Sophie Cunningham was more than just an injury. It was a moment of reckoning for the entire WNBA. It brought together every simmering issue: the inconsistent officiating, the debates over physicality, the new scrutiny from the Caitlyn Clark era, and the league's struggle to protect its own athletes into one explosive event. It forced fans, players, and executives to confront an uncomfortable question: what kind of league does the WNBA want to be? Will it be a league defined by skill, athleticism, and sportsmanship? Or will it descend into a spectacle of violence, where the most aggressive, not the most talented, survive? The answer will determine not only the health of its players, but the very soul of the sport itself.